Hello, my name is Khulud Alusibi, and from Group 5, and we have here five members in this group, as you see here. So our function in this group, basically, we are meeting every week, and we share some useful articles through Google Drive, and also we report some finding. We chose our disease, and all of us agree about this disease. And then we assign a task for each one based on the specialty to complete the swim lane for this patient, and then we need the full patient story. So our disease that we chose is triple negative breast cancer. Triple negative breast cancer is basically it's negative for progesterone receptor, estrogen receptor, and HER2 receptor. And this type of cancer representing 15 to 20% of all type of breast cancer. But it's aggressive type and also invasive. Usually this type of cancer associated with genetic mutation in a BRCA1 gene. Why this is very important? Because this type of cancer is very a hard type of cancer to be treated, and the patient went through multiple assessment. As you see here, the assessment of a breast cancer here, it go the and usually breast cancer going through different assessment. But for triple negative breast cancer, having more assessment because of the limitation of the treatment, and also because of it's very very invasive type of cancer. So patients representing poor prognosis with this type of cancer, and also it shows that patients with triple negative breast cancer, they have higher mortality compared with other type of breast cancer. To go to the stat briefly here, you can see from the Office for National Statistics, you can see here breast cancer is the most common type of cancer here in 2015 in female. And also here, if you can see among the age group, you can see that breast cancer is the most common cancer in adults in 45 to 54 years old. Also, the mortality rate is high. It's 39.9 in 2008 and 33, going a little bit lower in 2017, 33.3. However, it's still high after lung cancer and prostate cancer. The incidence rate also is high after the prostate cancer, which is 165.5, and it's quite similar to 2017. So in our patient that we will talk about it now, today, it's a female with 30, she is 35 years old. She found a lump in her left breast, and she is a single mom. She has one daughter, healthy daughter, and self-employed, healthy. She's going to the gym 2 to 3 times, but she is drinking alcohol. For the family history, she has healthy sister and healthy mom and dad, but her aunt died with breast cancer without doing any genetic test. So for the clinical diagnosis, the patient has been diagnosed in GB with breast cancer stage 2A, but high grade, not metastasized, and there's no cancer in the lymph node. I just want to show you that this is the NICE pathway, National Institute of Health and Care Excellence, for early and locally advanced breast cancer, and how the patient going through different assessment based on NICE guidelines. But we will show you also the swim lane that we this patient. So this is our swim lane for the patient from home until going to fertility clinic, and also the treatment. It will be very hard to go through all of it. Just to show you that patient will be referred from the GP to go to the local hospital to do some type of test, and going to secondary care, which is the genetic services and care, or the local hospital, and then I will go through the radiology to do mammogram and doing several tests. You see here, and doing several tests. We're not going to talk about all of this. I will focus only in one part, which is the genetic test for breast cancer. So I put here the genetic test for breast cancer based on NICE guidelines, which is any patient with breast cancer and suspected to have any inherited mutation. The genetic testing counseling, which has to be for 2 counseling sessions, and prospective genetic tests for the family has to be disclosed, that the patient can talk to the family that you might have the test as well. And the counselor has to tell the patient also about the time of the result based on the NICE guidelines. Should the GP referral to the genetic counselor shouldn't take more than 4 weeks, and it has to be fast tested to have results for the patient. Also, the carrier probability. So the patient, if the patient is eligible for the genetic or not, and the GP can, or physician or counselor, genetic counselor can do the calculation of the percentage of inherited of if the patient has any inherited mutation. Can use a website like this website or Manchester scoring system, or the physician can do a clinical judgment based on the family history or based on the type of cancer as well. So the mutation test, the mutation will first, if the patient has any relative, an affected relative, you have to start with the affected relative first, and then you can go with identifying mutation BRCA1, BRCA2, or BRCA3. If there is any specific variation on these genes, if in the affected relative, you can focus on this variation in the patient as well. So if the patient is not, the relative is not available, so you can do these genes, or you can do the panel as well for screening or searching for the genetic test. So the guidelines for the NICE guidelines for genetic tests for person, no personal history of breast cancer, and also the affected relative is not available, so you can offer the genetic test of BRCA1, BRCA2 if the probability is 10% and more, and as I said, the probability could be calculated. Also, we follow the NCCN guidelines for the genetic test. Usually the National Comprehensive Cancer Network, they do some guidelines for the genetic test. In our case here, no known familial pathogenic, so the patient has a relative, but we don't know if she carry any genetic mutations, and the patient can do the genetic test. In our result, we didn't see any pathogenic or likely pathogenic variants, so the patient will go for research. We're not going to consider the result for treatment. So for data sharing, I just want to show you that through the genetic test, the patient's data will go from one system to other system, like here from GP system to go to patient admission system, and then go to insurance system to have the approval for the genetic test, and go to lab system, which called LIMS, and then bioinformatics system for the data analysis and storing, and then to go to cancer hospital system to see the result. I will show you just briefly here. This is how the patient journey through genetic tests will go. So the patient will be referred to the genetic counselor, and as you see here in there is an HLA 7 messages. So to receive first the referral, ADT, and making the admission request. Again, this ADT is 1, and then making an appointment request. This appointment will go to the genetic counselor coordinator or the nurse, the genetic nurse, and then this appointment will be sent to the patient. Also, in the time of the attendance, the patient, the coordinator will make the message of opening the file for this patient, and then the file will be opened also in the genetic counselor system. The genetic counselor will order the genetic tests, as you see, RM001, one. This order will go to the genetic lab, and then will go to the genetic lab coordinator and assign a technician for this test. The technician will open this order for sequencing and send this result to bioinformatician to make the data analysis. The data analysis, after it's done, the report will be generated and will be sent to Genetest, and also will be saved in the server. The result will go back to genetic counselor, and then the genetic counselor will ask for another appointment for the patient, and then he will talk to the patient. So you can see here many actors here in this journey, in the patient journey, many messages, many requests that you can see. We cannot go through all of this. I just put a few codes for the TNBC code from Snowman, as you see here, and ICD-10, and also for BRCA1 detection test, as you see here, there's one code. However, there are a lot of codes and a lot of messages through this this journey. So what is the problems? I just going to briefly with the problems that some of the GP or even the secondary care, they can make the referral as a letter referral, especially if it's urgent referral versus e-referral. However, most of them, they do e-referral services. But the report, the genetic reports, most of them, genetic lab, they are generating paper report, not digital report. So this arises several problems, like misplacing the report or referral, and also could breach the confidentiality of the patient. Like the genetic data could go anywhere, and that will breach the confidentiality, and it could cause any delays for the patient treatment, because sending paper by regular mail will take time. And also this is time consuming and consuming a lot of paper. And most important thing that there's no integrated system between the genetic services, like the report will be generated from genetic lab, cannot be integrated for other hospital. And also there is no proper storing or recalling for the genetic data. So if the patient did this test, so when the family come to do the test, there is no easy way to just recall the data for this patient, or to have electronic search for the specific variant to look for. Also, I noticed that there is lacking lacking codes for some genetic tests, that's a new genetic test, especially things that under clinical trials, because a genetic test, or a genetic mutation, every time we discover there's a useful genetic mutation, can help in patient treatment. Also entering the code by some professionals, it could have a wrong code when you put the genetic test. So what is the solution? First, we have to have electronic referrals. All the genetic tests has to be referred to the genetic service electronically, and also have electronic report, genetic report as well has to be electronic, and we should have integrated genetic. We have to integrate the genetic report with NHS system or with any other hospital system, and easy to integrate. Unifying the coding system and make sure that we are not using different coding system, and updating the genetic test. And the other thing that I wish to say, this is already came up from NICE guidelines, which is the clinical genetic laboratory should record gene variant of uncertain significance and known pathogenic mutation in searchable electronic database. So this is a state from NICE guidelines. Finally, we have to give the training for patient dealing with the request and making the request and coding. This is all my references. I went to ICD-10 and SNOMED, Office for National Statistics, and also Manchester Center for Genomic Medicine to know how the genetic tests are already done, and National Institute for Healthcare Excellence, NICE, and some other articles. Thank you very much.